There is a quiet power in the way a mother speaks when she is no longer trying to impress the world, but simply trying to tell the truth as she has lived it. When Elon Musk's mother speaks, she is not speaking as the parent of a famous man, nor as someone borrowing authority from success that is not her own. She is speaking as a woman who has lived through uncertainty, reinvention, fear, and courage, and who understands something many people forget when they chase greatness: life does not begin with confidence, and it does not reward perfection. It responds to persistence, self-respect, and the willingness to keep going when the story is unfinished. What she wants you to understand right now is that strength is not loud. It does not announce itself. It often looks like survival on days when applause is absent. Before the world knew her son's name, she knew what it meant to raise children with limited resources, to rebuild a career after setbacks, and to trust her own judgment when others doubted her choices. The lesson here is not about celebrity or genius. It is about resilience that grows quietly, rooted in responsibility and self-belief rather than external validation. She wants you to understand that there is no expiration date on becoming who you are meant to be. The world loves to tell people that time is running out, that if success hasn't arrived by a certain age, it never will. Her life contradicts that fear. Reinvention does not belong only to the young. Growth does not stop because society has decided you should settle. The courage to begin again is not childish or foolish, it is one of the most mature acts a human being can perform. There is also a deeper message about dignity. When life becomes difficult, it is easy to shrink, to apologize for taking up space, to believe that hardship is a personal failure. She reminds us, not through slogans but through lived example, that dignity is maintained by continuing to show up for yourself. You do not have to dramatize your pain to make it real. You do not have to explain your dreams to people who are not committed to understanding them. Quiet dignity is often the foundation of extraordinary outcomes. She wants you to understand that independence is not about doing everything alone, it is about trusting yourself enough to make decisions that align with your values. Asking for help does not weaken independence. Depending on your own judgment strengthens it. Many people confuse self-reliance with isolation, but real self-reliance includes knowing when guidance is useful and when noise should be ignored. This balance is learned through experience, not theory. Another truth she embodies is that hardship does not disqualify you from joy. There is a tendency to believe that happiness must be postponed until everything is resolved. Until stability is guaranteed, until success is confirmed. Her story suggests otherwise. Joy can coexist with struggle. Confidence can exist before certainty. You are allowed to enjoy your life while still building it. Waiting for perfect conditions is often the longest delay you can impose on yourself. She also wants you to understand the importance of modeling courage, especially for the people watching you. Children, colleagues, friends, and even strangers are influenced by how you respond to adversity. You do not have to be fearless to be brave. Courage is simply the decision to act without guarantees. When you demonstrate this, you give others permission to believe in their own potential. There is a powerful lesson about work, too. Not work as obsession, but work as responsibility. Doing your job well, even when it feels small or unrecognized, builds character that eventually supports larger opportunities. Discipline is not glamorous, but it is dependable. Motivation fades, habits remain. She understands that consistency is often more valuable than bursts of inspiration. She wants you to understand that comparison is a thief not only of joy, but of clarity. Measuring your life against someone else's timeline distorts your perception of your own progress. Every life has unseen chapters. Every success rests on foundations that were once invisible. Focus on what you can control: effort, integrity, and growth. The rest will unfold as it must. Another message she carries is about self-respect. You teach people how to treat you by how you treat yourself. This is not arrogance, it is alignment. When you value your time, your energy, and your boundaries, you create a life that can sustain ambition without burning out. Self-respect is not selfish. It is the structure that allows generosity to exist without resentment. She wants you to understand that failure is information, not identity. When something does not work, it is tempting to internalize the outcome and label yourself as inadequate. But failure is a signal, not a verdict. It tells you where to adjust, not where to stop. Resilient people are not those who avoid failure, they are those who refuse to let it define them. There is also wisdom in her attitude toward aging. Aging is not decline, it is accumulation. Every year adds perspective, discernment, and emotional strength. When you stop fighting the passage of time, you begin to use it. Confidence deepens when you are no longer performing for approval but living from experience. This kind of confidence is calm, grounded, and persuasive without effort. She wants you to understand that your story matters, even before it becomes impressive. Many people dismiss their present circumstances because they do not yet resemble success. But every meaningful story includes chapters of uncertainty. The value of your life is not postponed until recognition arrives. It exists now, in the choices you make when no one is watching. Another quiet lesson is about adaptability. The world changes, industries shift, expectations evolve. Those who cling rigidly to one version of themselves often struggle the most. Adaptability is not betrayal of identity, it is respect for reality. When you allow yourself to learn, to update your skills, and to remain curious, you stay relevant not only professionally but personally. She wants you to understand that confidence can be learned. It is not a personality trait reserved for a lucky few. Confidence is built by keeping promises to yourself. By surviving discomfort, by proving through action that you are capable of handling what comes next. Each small act of courage compounds into a stable sense of self-trust. there is also a message about grace under pressure. When life tests you, how you respond shapes your future more than the test itself. Bitterness narrows possibility. Gratitude expands it. This does not mean denying pain, it means refusing to let pain harden you. Softness and strength are not opposites. They are partners. She wants you to understand that ambition does not require cruelty. You can aim high without devaluing others. You can pursue excellence without losing compassion. Success that costs your humanity is too expensive. True achievement enhances your ability to contribute, not just your ability to accumulate. Another insight is about patience. In a culture addicted to speed, patience feels like weakness. But patience is often strategic endurance. It allows ideas to mature, skills to deepen, and opportunities to align. Rushing can create motion without progress. Patience creates progress with direction. She wants you to understand the power of example over explanation. You do not need to convince the world of your worth. Live in a way that reflects it. Consistent behavior speaks louder than declarations. When your actions align with your values, credibility follows naturally. There is also a lesson about fear. Fear is not an enemy to be destroyed, it is a signal to be understood. Fear often appears when you are approaching something meaningful. The goal is not to eliminate fear, but to move forward despite it. Courage grows in the presence of fear, not in its absence. She wants you to understand that life rarely unfolds in straight lines. Detours are not delays, they are education. What feels like a setback may be preparing you for a role you cannot yet imagine. Trust the process, not because it is easy, but because resistance only adds suffering to uncertainty. Another important message is about self-expression. You do not need permission to be visible. You do not need approval to take up space. When you express yourself authentically, you attract the people and opportunities aligned with who you truly are. Hiding may feel safe, but it limits connection. She wants you to understand that respect for yourself creates respect from others. When you stand by your decisions calmly and consistently, people adjust. You do not need to argue your worth. You need to embody it. There is wisdom in her approach to setbacks. Keep moving. Not dramatically, not recklessly, just steadily. Momentum is created by small, repeated actions. Progress is rarely the result of one bold leap, it is usually the outcome of many ordinary steps taken without quitting. She wants you to understand that gratitude is a discipline, not a mood. Choosing to notice what is working trains your mind to see possibility rather than limitation. Gratitude does not deny difficulty, it contextualizes it. It reminds you that you are more supported than you sometimes realize. Another message is about humility. Knowing your strengths does not require denying your weaknesses. Humility allows growth. It keeps you teachable. Arrogance freezes development, humility invites improvement. She wants you to understand that legacy is not something you build at the end of life. It is something you create every day through how you treat people and how you respond to challenge. Influence does not require a platform. It begins with presence. There is also a lesson about simplicity. Complexity often masquerades as sophistication, but clarity is more powerful. When you simplify your goals, your values, and your priorities, your energy becomes focused. Focus creates results. She wants you to understand that self-care is not indulgence, it is maintenance. You cannot pour from an empty vessel. Rest, reflection, and renewal are not rewards, they are requirements for sustained contribution. Another insight is about optimism. Optimism is not denial of reality, it is belief in possibility. It is the choice to expect that effort will matter. This belief fuels persistence when outcomes are uncertain. She wants you to understand that your worth is not negotiable. It does not fluctuate with success or failure. When you anchor your identity in values rather than outcomes, you become resilient to change. There is also a message about courage and visibility. Being seen means being judged. Avoiding judgment means avoiding impact. Choose impact. Choose to be visible in service of something meaningful. She wants you to understand that kindness is strength, not weakness. Kindness requires self-control, empathy, and courage. It is easy to be harsh. It is powerful to be humane. Another lesson is about preparation. Opportunities favor those who are ready, not those who are lucky. Preparation is an act of faith. It assumes the future will require you, even if the invitation has not yet arrived. She wants you to understand that your environment matters. Surround yourself with people who respect your ambition and your boundaries. Growth is accelerated in supportive conditions. There is also wisdom in her acceptance of imperfection. Perfectionism delays progress. Excellence emerges through iteration, not paralysis. Begin where you are. Improve as you go. She wants you to understand that confidence grows when you stop performing and start living. Authenticity is sustainable. Performance is exhausting. Choose sustainability. Another message is about responsibility. Taking responsibility for your choices empowers you. Blame disempowers. Ownership creates agency. She wants you to understand that hope is practical. It motivates action. It keeps the future open. Hope is not naive, it is necessary. There is a final, quiet truth in everything she represents. You are allowed to believe in yourself before the evidence is obvious. Faith in your own capacity is not arrogance, it is the seed from which all achievement grows. Life does not ask you to be certain. It asks you to be willing. Willing to try. Willing to learn. Willing to continue. And in that willingness, extraordinary things become possible. She wants you to understand that uncertainty is not a sign you are failing, it is often a sign you are growing. Stable, predictable paths rarely stretch the soul. When you step into something larger than your current identity, confusion naturally follows. Instead of resisting it, learn to listen. Uncertainty asks you to develop discernment, patience, and inner authority. These qualities cannot be downloaded or inherited, they are earned by walking forward without full visibility. There is also a quiet insistence in her message about self-trust. Long before others believe in you, you must become your own witness. This means noticing your effort even when outcomes disappoint. Acknowledging progress even when it is slow, and refusing to abandon yourself in moments of doubt. Self-trust is built not through constant success, but through consistency of character. She wants you to understand that life will test your priorities. There will be moments when ambition conflicts with peace, when opportunity challenges values, when speed tempts you to compromise integrity. In those moments, clarity matters more than courage. Knowing who you are simplifies decisions. When your values are clear, choices become lighter, even when consequences are heavy. Another truth woven through her lived example is that confidence does not require certainty. You can move forward while still asking questions. You can act while still learning. Waiting to feel ready often means waiting forever. Readiness is not a feeling, it is a decision to engage despite incomplete knowledge. She wants you to understand that emotional strength is not about suppressing feeling, but about processing it honestly. Avoidance delays healing. Awareness accelerates it. When you allow yourself to feel disappointment, fear, or grief without letting those emotions dictate your identity, you reclaim power. Emotional literacy is a form of intelligence that shapes every other area of life. There is also a lesson about generosity of spirit. Scarcity thinking narrows vision. Abundance thinking expands it. When you believe there is room for many people to succeed, collaboration replaces competition, and growth becomes shared rather than guarded. Generosity does not diminish you, it multiplies influence. She wants you to understand that leadership begins long before authority is granted. Leadership is how you behave when no one is obligated to listen. It is how you handle responsibility, how you treat people who cannot advance your interests, how you respond when plans fall apart. Titles recognize leadership, they do not create it. Another message is about resilience through routine. Dramatic breakthroughs are rare. Daily discipline is common among those who endure. Simple habits practiced consistently become anchors during chaos. When motivation wavers, structure sustains you. She wants you to understand that self-worth should never be outsourced. Applause is fleeting. Criticism is unpredictable. When your sense of value depends on either, you surrender stability. Ground your worth internally, and feedback becomes information rather than judgment. There is also wisdom in her acceptance of vulnerability. Strength that denies vulnerability eventually collapses. Strength that integrates vulnerability adapts. Being open does not mean being unprotected, it means being real. Authenticity builds trust, and trust builds connection. She wants you to understand that life rewards responsibility more consistently than it rewards talent. Talent opens doors. Responsibility keeps them open. When people can rely on you, opportunities multiply naturally. Another insight is about perspective. Short-term discomfort often supports long-term alignment. Sacrifice is meaningful when it serves purpose, not ego. Ask yourself not only what you want now, but what kind of life you want to recognize later. She wants you to understand that your inner dialogue shapes your external reality. Speak to yourself with the same fairness you offer others. Harsh internal criticism drains energy. Constructive self-talk builds momentum. There is also a message about courage in stillness. Not every brave act is visible. Sometimes courage looks like rest, reflection, or restraint. Knowing when not to act is as important as knowing when to push forward. She wants you to understand that success is rarely solitary. Behind every visible achievement are relationships, support systems, and moments of unseen assistance. Gratitude keeps you grounded. Acknowledgement strengthens bonds. Another lesson is about learning to receive. Many people can give, but struggle to accept help, praise, or opportunity. Receiving requires humility and trust. Allowing others to support you does not diminish independence, it deepens connection. She wants you to understand that meaning is created through contribution. Fulfillment grows when your efforts serve something larger than personal gain. Purpose stabilizes ambition. There is also wisdom in her approach to fear of judgment. Not everyone will understand your path, and that is not a flaw. Consensus is not required for conviction. Respectfully release the need for universal approval. She wants you to understand that endings are not failures. Some chapters conclude because they have fulfilled their purpose. Letting go creates space for what is next. Clinging delays growth. Another message is about optimism anchored in effort. Hope without action is fantasy. Action without hope is exhaustion. Together, they create progress. She wants you to understand that clarity often comes after commitment. You do not always see the whole staircase. Take the next step anyway. There is a steady reassurance in everything she represents. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. Life unfolds in seasons, and each season prepares you for the next. Trust that preparation, honor the process, and keep moving forward with quiet confidence. She wants you to understand that peace is not something you find after success, it is something you practice along the way. Many people believe fulfillment waits at the finish line, but there is no single finish line, only ongoing movement. When you learn to live well now, not someday, success becomes a companion rather than a condition. There is also a quiet insistence on responsibility for mindset. You may not control every event, but you do influence how long it owns your attention. Dwelling drains energy. Reflection redirects it. Choose responses that preserve your future rather than punish your past. She wants you to understand that simplicity is strength. When life feels overwhelming, it is often because too many voices are competing for authority inside you. Return to basics. What matters? What doesn't? What you can do today. Complexity dissolves when priorities are honest. Another truth is about courage and consistency. Showing up again after disappointment requires more strength than initial enthusiasm. Anyone can begin when hope is high. Character is revealed when momentum slows and you continue anyway. She wants you to understand that your pace is valid. Speed is celebrated, but sustainability is respected. Moving steadily in the right direction will always outperform rushing toward the wrong destination. Honor your rhythm. It is carrying you further than you realize. There is wisdom in her understanding of visibility and patience. Some seasons are for planting, not displaying. Growth underground is still growth. Do not confuse silence with stagnation. She wants you to understand that your value does not increase when others finally agree with you. Validation may feel comforting, but self-alignment is stabilizing. When you stand comfortably in who you are, approval becomes optional rather than necessary. Another message is about gentleness with yourself. Progress does not require punishment. Discipline rooted in self-respect lasts longer than discipline fueled by self-criticism. Be firm with your goals and kind with your learning curve. She wants you to understand that wisdom often arrives quietly. It does not interrupt. It waits to be noticed. Create enough stillness in your life to hear it. There is also a lesson about endings and beginnings existing at the same time. While one version of you is dissolving, another is forming. You do not need to rush the transition. Transformation is already in motion. She wants you to understand that success does not make you whole. Wholeness allows you to experience success without losing yourself. When identity is secure, achievement becomes enrichment, not compensation. Another insight is about trust and effort. Even when results lag behind work, effort is never wasted. It builds endurance, clarity, and capacity. Outcomes catch up eventually. She wants you to understand that fear of failure often hides fear of judgment. Release the audience. Live as if your life is a private rehearsal for becoming who you are meant to be. There is wisdom in her calm certainty that life does not require perfection to be meaningful. It requires participation. Engage fully. Learn openly. Adjust willingly. She wants you to understand that confidence matures into calm. Loud certainty seeks attention. Quiet confidence commands it without asking. Another message is about gratitude for becoming. Appreciate not only what you have achieved, but who you are becoming in the process. Character is the real accomplishment. She wants you to understand that the future does not demand urgency as much as it demands presence. Being fully here prepares you better than constant anticipation. There is a final, grounding reassurance in everything she represents. You are allowed to take your life seriously without taking yourself too seriously. Growth thrives in humility and humor. And perhaps the most important thing she wants you to understand right now is this: you do not need to prove your worth by suffering endlessly, by rushing blindly, or by shrinking your needs. You are enough to begin. You are capable of continuing. You are wise enough to adapt. Life is not asking you to become someone else. It is asking you to become more fully yourself, one honest step at a time.